Welcome everyone to our Resource YYC Lunch and Learn. Just so everyone's aware, Resource YYC is a co-working community geared to professionals. We offer our lunch and learn sessions as a means for our community to network and provide meaningful learning opportunities. We also provide private office spaces, dedicated desks, day drop-in, and virtual office options. Today we have Shawna Quigley, who is a passionate business and sales coach and trainer who is empowering small business leaders to grow their confidence, profitability, and personal potential. She's talking to us today about success in 2021 and how you define it, along with the energy and focus you're going to aim to put towards it. Well, welcome, Shawna.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rosemary. I appreciate the introduction. So, we've been, this might look familiar. This might be how you were feeling a lot of 2020. Certainly in unprecedented times like we've been in, there's been so many changes and we felt really uncertain. And many people, a lot of the people that I speak with have literally felt like they're just floating in a life raft, no anchor, and just whatever the way that the waves are bashing, that's the way they've been going. What we're going to talk about today is really starting to take in some control over that, set some goals, and start to be more anchored and have the results that you're looking for. So, highly sophisticated poll here. I'd like you to put in your chat. Which of these statements describes you? I'd like to get a sense of where you are in terms of goals. So number one, I don't set goals. Number two, I don't see any point in setting goals because you can't predict the future. Number three, I set New Year's resolutions or goals, but quickly lose motivation to achieve them. Number four, I set goals at the beginning of the year and forget about them. Number five, I set goals and get very frustrated because I simply don't achieve them. And number six, I set goals each year and achieve them. So, Rosemary, if you could give me some idea of what numbers people are putting in the chat.
Got a couple fours. Sheila says she's 4, 5, and 6.
Excellent. Excellent.
Well, we've got a 4 and sometimes 6. Anybody else?
All right. Well, I want to congratulate you first and foremost. Now, I'll admit, I had an assumption that most of you would probably be leaning towards goal setting and believe in goals. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have attended. So you're already in the high minority of people. Harvard actually reported that 83% of people in North America do not set goals. Don't set goals of any kind. And then there are people who set New Year's resolutions or goals. And staggering fact, by January 15th, 93% of them have already abandoned them. So, the concept of setting goals is highly linked towards performance and high achievers. So I want to congratulate you on taking the initiative of being here and moving forward in your plans. So we're going to talk about goal setting, but there's going to be some new information you probably haven't heard, and lots that you will hear, but probably some different perspectives. So I would just want to bring that in. So as we talk about this, our learning objectives today are: one, why are they important? Two, how to set goals, and three, how to create an action plan. All right. So goals are really important. And one of the reasons, it's really like a GPS. So when you think about it, it's really providing you direction and pathway of helping you to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve. And much like a GPS, it course corrects. Perhaps the satellite comes in and says there's traffic congestion up ahead. There's some accidents, there's road construction. So goals are adaptable according to the information, but the goal itself stays the same. So from a perspective of why are they important? Number one, it gives you focus, clarity, and positivity. So you're really focusing in on what it is you want to achieve. You have clarity around that, what types of activities and goals that you need to have in order to do that. You have positivity. You believe in what you're doing. And you have that can-do spirit that is going to propel you through to achieve. Because let's face it, there's times when the goals can seem quite daunting. And without this, you won't move on forward. You might be in that situation of not achieving your goals or giving up. Second one that's really important is it builds confidence. Confidence is really based on self-mastery and achieving your goals. So the whole set of working towards it, establishing it, monitoring your progress along your journey of your goals really does build confidence. And to that, it builds resiliency. You start to learn that, when things come at you, things that you hadn't anticipated, things that were maybe a challenge or a struggle, that you have the ability to handle that, which serves you really well as you move forward, particularly in times like COVID. Productivity increases as you're spending the time and energy focused on the activities that are going to deliver the results that you're looking for. Things that aren't going to propel you towards that, things that come up, you have that ability to say, no, this isn't a priority. Oh, this does need to be done, so maybe I need to delegate this to someone else, or you assign a time when it would be most appropriate. So it really keeps you very focused and managing your time much better. Oops. It reduces stress. One of the big reasons is you feel in control. You don't feel like you're a victim or powerless to everything that's coming up against you. That really helps to reduce stress. You're being effective with your time. You're building in activities and you're managing your time much better. All of these help to reduce your stress. And lastly, challenging growth. Goals by nature, the really highly successful goals, require you to stretch. They require you to do something different. It requires you to grow. And in that, it's embedded challenge and growth. All right. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a piece of paper or on your computer, and I would like you to start thinking about what it is that you like to achieve. And you'll see this gift box on the side that is really a word cloud of a number of the most common things that people are looking to achieve, whether they're personal or whether they're professional. But there's many. It might be from a professional perspective that you're looking to get some added education. Maybe you're looking to be promoted. Maybe you're looking to start a business, any number of different types of activities. Maybe you have an existing business and you want to grow it. So on that piece of paper, I'd like you to say, what specifically would you like to achieve? And then I would like you to think about, why is this important to you? And the third thing I'd like you to think about is, what benefits will you get from this? So I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to write that down. And Rosemary, if there's any chat questions or something that comes in, please feel free to put them forward. And then I'm just going to have a little conversation about the importance of some of these things and what that looks like. Number one, which you probably heard before, one of the basic principles of goal setting is making sure that it's very specific. So if, for example, and I have to admit, I Googled what were some of the most common goals that people set, and it was like, be happy, be successful. Arguably, those are wonderful goals to go for, but what does success look like for that? It is obviously to say be happy is not specifically or arguably something that could be measured. So it needs to be very specific about what that would look like. What does success look like if it is to be happy? Number two, really important in terms of your motivation to stay and work towards achieving the goal is, why is this important to you? So if your goal was to lose weight, why is this important to you? Some people might say, well, they have a reunion that they're planning on going to and they want to get down to a certain size. Others might say that they're taking blood pressure medication and they would like to get off it. Maybe they've just had a grandchild, and so they want to be around for that. The more that you can dig deep as to the really importance, what it really means to you, the better the chance you will have of sticking to your goal, because there's something really meaningful and tangible in that. It often isn't just that I'm going to now be a size 2 or a size 8. It's what it does for you and how it makes you feel. And really, part and parcel of that is, what are the benefits that you're going to get for this? Perhaps it is around education, that you're going for a degree or a certification. What specifically is that going to get from you? It might get you that promotion. It might be that opportunity to, move to that dream job that you're looking at. But what else? There's always going to be much more than one clear benefit. And the more that you can make a list of those types of things, again, the more you will really ground into how this goal is really going to affect you and be important to you. Any questions on that before I move on? All right. Rosemary, your silence, I will take that as opportunity to move on.
Yep, I think you're covering everything for everyone so far.
All right. So your brain. Some of you might probably going, what the heck have I put a brain in here for? There's a real reason that the brain is there. And if you look at that actual diagram, you can see that it's sitting on a map, and that there is actually a map that is in that head. Your brain is filled with a whole bunch of neural pathways, maps, as you were. Your brain is responsible for all kinds of different functions, and much of it is subconscious. 90% of what's going on, some arguably say 95% of what's going on, you're unconsciously unaware of. And that's where habits come in. You've had a lifetime of creating these habits, how you think, how you act, the way you respond to different things. So a goal at the end of the day requires some sort of change, some sort of habit. And your brain is a pivotal part of that. So as I said, number one, your automatic pilot. Habits kind of go on that automatic pilot. You press it, you engage it, and it just happens over and over again. It's not stopping for new information. It is blindly moving forward. So you have to intercept that. You have to disengage the automatic pilot and create some new thoughts and actions and behaviors around that. Number two, challenge. Your brain loves a challenge. It is a problem-solving machine, and it loves to be able to initiate creativity and problem solving. Just think for a moment, the last time that you had a problem and you went to sleep, you hadn't found a solution for it. And then probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you woke up and went, I got it. That's it. I figured it out. Well, you might have gone to sleep, but your brain was so excited that it had a problem to solve that it just continually worked. And it allowed its creativity to find that solution. It loves a challenge. Number three, imagination. Your brain does not know the difference between real and imagined. So if you vividly imagine your goal completely completed, done, as if it is today, and you bring in as much as you can in terms of how it feels, the smells, how it felt, how it touches, all of these types of things create a very vivid imagination of what the goal will look like and feel like when you achieve it. your brain thinks that it's already achieved. And very important, you want to, as you go through your timeline on your goals, is make sure that you continually are revisiting that vision in your head. One of the things I love to do, because I'm very much a visual person, is I think through, I imagine every possible aspect of it, and then I Google and try and find an image that really conveys the emotion, if it's a dream vacation to Hawaii, I see myself on a beautiful beach. I try and bring in all the different types of things of how I'm going to look and how I'm going to feel. I print that off and I keep it so that I'm constantly looking at it. And that will help to stay convicted around that and keep that first and foremost in my mind. Secondly, there are some ABCs of goals. Really, really important. The first is it achievable? Perhaps you've tried this goal before, and so you might be really trying to convince yourself that it's not achievable. Maybe it's a weight loss goal. That's one of the reasons we talked about the other ones before. Why is it important? What are the types of things? Because there's going to be behavioral changes that are going to need to happen. But if you do not believe that it's achievable, you simply will abandon the goal. So you have to look and find ways to really make that achievable. What information, what sources, what do you need to do that will make that achievable? Second one is it believable? Again, very closely aligned to the achievable. And perhaps it might be around education. Maybe you felt that you were a poor student growing up and now you really want to go for some sort of certification. What is it that you need to do to reinforce that it is a believable goal in your mind? And then the C is committed. You'll see there on the bottom, there is a little 3-point graph. It says 1, nope. 3, meh. And 5 is let's do this. That's my little commitment scale. So whenever you set your goals, make sure that you're thinking about that. If somebody, perhaps it's your supervisor has handed you down a particular goal, and if it's not meeting these ABCs of goals, you're probably going to be very passive about it. You're not going to actually try for that. So you need to think about what you commit, how committed are you? If you're at a 3 or less, probably you're not going to achieve it. But before you completely abandon that goal, I'd ask you to do one thing. And that is ask yourself, what would it take to make that a 5? Because if you can go back and think about it and go, okay, I like this goal. And if it did this for me, all of a sudden you're a 5 and you're very committed towards it. Very, very important. All right. Successful goal setting. You see there on the right, there's a SMART chart. I would be surprised if most of you hadn't seen SMART before. It is really the global way of setting goals, the global standard. And especially if you're in any larger organization, it would be part and parcel of your annual performance plans is to set your goals. And it's an acronym. It stands for SMART, which is specific. What specifically is it that you're going to achieve? What is measurable? How will you measure that? How will you know that you're successful? Is it achievable? Which we've already talked about that. Realistic. Now, this is one thing that when I teach courses, people tend to go, well, it's realistic because of this. But one of the areas that people often don't take into consideration is it realistic and doable? Yes. But is it aligned to your other priorities? And let me give you an example of that. If you decided that you're going to run a marathon and, you currently run a couple hours a week or, half an hour in the morning, obviously this is going to require a great deal more effort and time. Perhaps you have to do your long run on the weekend. you have a family. How does that fit in with the family dynamic? And perhaps you actually coach one of your child's teams, which is also on the weekend. So in that realistic, it needs to make sure that it's aligned to your priorities and purposes as well. All right. And the last one is time bound. You're going to achieve this by when? All right. And my mouse just want to go through. The second thing is maximum 3 at a time. So often people do two things. There's two really big misconceptions around goal setting. The first is that they're set in stone, and they're not. Just like we use that analogy at the beginning, the GPS. Your GPS receives satellite information, and it will continue on the course of the destination you're going for, but it will provide you some alternate routes. The same are goals. They're not cast in stone. The outcome, the goal, the ultimate destination is going to stay the same, but there's fluidity and adaptability as you go through them. The second part of that is, and I just had a brain melt for a moment there. So many people have a tendency to think they list a whole bunch of what they think are goals, when in fact, they are a part and parcel of a goal, a larger, bigger picture. Tends to be more activities, tactics, or milestones that
Shawna,
need.
we have a
Yep.
question in the
Okay,
chat.
absolutely. Yes.
So, should you develop 3 goals personally and 3 for your business, or just a total of 3?
Just a total of 3. And here's why. If you create more than 3, the focus that you're going to be applying to each of them you'll literally be a master of none. It's very hard to really get clear and focused and deliver your activities and do them smartly throughout. So if you're thinking about a business, maybe you need to think about the bigger picture goals. You know, what's if you're in a business, you're probably looking at what your revenue targets are, perhaps an operational goal, maybe a project. Now, that does not mean that you can't have some personal goals in there, such as running the marathon. But again, you're going to have to make sure that you're looking at them and that realistic. Is it realistic that this can be done in this time frame? And you may go, I'm super committed. I'm a 5 on all of these things. So maybe there's some time adjustments that need to happen. There's some prioritization of, you know, I got 5 goals, but 2 of them are going to have to move off until I've completed 2 others. I hope that helps in that. But it all comes down to how effective you can be in executing on the activities. Number 3, you've got to write it down and you need to share it with other people. The simple act of writing it down really activates your brain. Also, if it's just sitting up in your brain, our brain, will morph it, change it, and dilute it down. And remember, 90% of our thoughts are up to 95% are subconscious. So it kind of gets lost in this vacuum. The act of writing it down is a commitment to your brain. Writing it down and reviewing it regularly is committing to that action. And sharing it, I'm sure I'm not the only person, but when I share a goal, I have an intense sense of responsibility towards that. Last thing I want to do is come back in 3 months later and go, oh, you know what? I didn't do that. Right. Which is also one of the reasons that people don't tend to share, because they don't want to be held to that you didn't achieve it, which goes back to that believability and achievement orientation. So share it. In fact, statistically, you're 50% more likely to achieve your goal if you write it down and share it with someone. Number 4, you have to be accountable. You have to be accountable to the actions that you put in place. These are the things that I said that I was going to do. If I was going to be getting up, say that, my normal time is getting up at 6. And I said that, to achieve these goals is I'm going to ride my bike or whatever that activity is, I'm going to get up at 5:30 day after day. That was a core tactic of what I needed to do to achieve my goals. But you know what? I had a late night last night. I'm waking up at my 5:30. The alarm goes off. I'm a little tired. And I say, you know what? I don't feel like doing it today. That's a choice. And it might be a valid choice. The question is that going to be the norm and the habit going forward? Or is that an exception to the rule and you're giving yourself permission? Or I might say, you know what? I'm going to go at noon. Right? So there's some negotiation around that. But you ultimately have to be accountable to do what you said you're going to do. Now, here's a way to really help you amp that up and stay committed. And that is, remember, we said share it with someone. Well, share it with that person and make them say you're accountable. So maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly that you're going to talk to them. And they're, it might literally be, well, I've gotten up, 5 out of 7 days consistently for the last month as per my agreement. That physical act of sharing that and holding yourself accountable, again, increases your likelihood by 65%. Pretty powerful results. Now, wow, 95% by having an accountability partner and having specific specific appointments around that is really, really important. This is one of the reasons that coaching is so effective. Many of us coaches, a big part of what we do is all around the goal setting, helping to really create those action plans, help determine what mindsets are getting in the way, and holding people accountable to what they said that they were going to do. Now, you don't have to have a coach to do that. That person that you shared it with, particularly if they have mutual goals, is very, very powerful to set up appointments every 2 weeks and talk about what went well, what didn't go well, how am I progressing around that? And that will help to continue to keep you on focus. Oops, sorry. And really, really important, you got to celebrate those wins. You have to use some sort of reward system. And it's whatever is compelling to you. And have a consistent set of them. Not, I'm going to celebrate this once I achieve the goal. There are many, many milestones along the way. Make sure that you're coming back and you're celebrating it. And however that looks to you, it might be keeping a visual chart of that. It might be keeping an Excel document that you can keep coming back to. And so on those days when you have that choice of, well, am I going to do that or not? You also come back to that tracking system and look at it and go, well, yeah, wow, I've come a long way. If I was doing, if it's the analogy of running the marathon and I'm 3 or 4 months into it, I can sit back and go, whoa, wait a second. Think of how I feel. I can now run 5 more kilometers than I was able to before. I find it much easier to do that. I have much more energy. And gosh, you know what? I'm feeling happier. All those wonderful endorphins, and a little plug for goal setting. That sense of accomplishment through your goals. Very,
All right,
very important.
we have a comment
All
from
right.
Patricia. So she says, I have an accountability group and we meet every 2 weeks, but it's hard to reset new goals after you achieve something.
Okay. So can you just, Patricia, can you just elaborate a little bit more about, is it a portion of that same goal, or you've accomplished that goal and now you're trying to decide what's next, or what's the next logical goal for you? Just so that I'm clear about the question.
I don't know if I'm chatting it or if I'm putting it in.
Well, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. It's just basically, we set quarterly goals, and then once you get there, what's the next logical step for? It's just tough because there's 4 of us and we're just trying to do baby steps, but do we do the big audacious goals and then kind of try and break them down into smaller steps for every 2 weeks? Or it's hard to, when we get there, it's like, okay, we did it, now what?
Okay. And correcting me if I'm wrong about this, I'm assuming it's a business oriented accountability group.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So what I would say is you should have, from a business perspective, you should have an annual goal. So what is with the revenue targets, those types of things. And many of the accountability groups, or you'll participate in some that'll say like 90-day goal planner. Ultimately, I would say that you have to have these annual goals and then fit these 90-day goals into them. So in that situation, it's some of these would almost be smaller goals, or more, it might even be more of a tactic and priority and activities that contribute to the bigger goals. You want to make sure that you have a path to the full year. What is it that you really want to achieve? And so that might be a revenue target of X. So what is it that you need to do? And the individual accountability groups are great because you could then chunk it down into, what do I need to achieve in that quarter? So it might be a revenue, but it might also be setting up some goals. Maybe you're going to launch some new products. Maybe you're going to launch an app, or participate. So there's going to be specific activities that need to be achieved within that. But I would say it's under the umbrella of your overall business goal for the year. Does that help? Patricia, did that help, or did that convolute things for you?
Sorry, no, yes, it did. If I'm looking at a revenue goal, then I'm also thinking about, how many prospects do I have to reach out to, or how many, it just sort of leads to a bunch of other different questions. What is my close rate? How many conversations do I need to get? How many, that kind of thing. And it just sort of not necessarily leads me down a rabbit hole, but there's a whole bunch of other things that I can't just say, I want to make a certain amount in this, quarter. There's a whole bunch of other things that obviously create that success.
Right. So it's a little bit more tactic oriented. So your annual goal is X, and you're right. You do need to anticipate close rates and those types of things. So how many more customers am I going to increase price? Any number of different things is a new service offering, those types of things. But those are sort of that high level thinking. This is what I'm going to do, and this is tactically what I'm going to do. So maybe, for example, part of your tactic is you're going to launch some training programs. So that's your quarter 2. What do you need to do in quarter 1 to facilitate that? So, again, they're sort of somewhat part and parcel of the bigger overall goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I move on, Rosemary?
Nope, nothing so far.
Okay. All right. So, this slide looks kind of familiar. So I'd like you to take out what you wrote down before, and based on the information I just talked about, is there anything that you would add to that or change to these 3 questions? What specifically do you want to achieve? Why is this important to you? What benefits will you get from this? I'll just give you a minute to look at that and think about that.
If I can make one comment on that, I find those questions are great, And then just from what you were just talking about, Shawna, asking for each of these, is it achievable? Is it believable? Is it realistic and committed? That is when we get down to the brass tacks and setting up those, what's the specific tactics that are needed to do this. And so it's setting a timeline, that I guess that's the piece that I would add to that.
Thank you. Absolutely. The process absolutely requires you to, create those SMART goals, the action plan around that. I find, and the reason I'm getting you to go through this is there needs to be some thought processes around this to really get clear about what that goal is actually going to be. And then once you're really clear about that, then it becomes much easier to go, okay, these are the measurables. Here's, then you can really formulate that SMART goal and create that action plan. And of course, timelines, activities, tactics, all of that is really important in that. Is there any other question before I go on? All right. So here's the thing. Your goals are your goals, but rarely do they not impact other people. If you're in a family situation, how does it affect your significant other, your family, your friends, your community? If you're in an organization, how does it affect your business, your organization, your employees, your coworkers? So you need to think about these in terms of how is that going to impact each of these individuals. For example, if it's in a business and it's affecting your employees, what are the types of things that you're going to need to get from them in order to participate in that? There's probably going to be some specific business activities that they're going to be required. Going back to Patricia's example in terms of, there's financial goals. In a sales organization, you have a top line goal, and then you assign out individual territory goals. So how does that impact those individuals? What is it that they need to do? What do you need to do to anticipate these? Maybe in that situation, there's going to be needing some new training. Maybe you're launching some new products, so your marketing department may need to be preparing those materials. So all these things need to be anticipated because they will be very important in terms of setting out your action plan. Another key part of that is who or what resources will you need to make this a reality? So again, if it's in an organization and my goal is that I want to go and get some a certification in something, and I'm looking at my company to pay the tuition. I'm looking for my supervisor to provide me with the time off in order to achieve that. Perhaps it is a personal goal where, again, if we use that analogy of going and getting education, I may need my partner to support me in providing more childcare or pick up some more of the activities around the house, maybe preparing more meals. So very rarely is your goal, even though it's your personal goal or professional goal, is it done in isolation. There's always going to be a time that it's going to impact someone else. So the more that we can think about these things, the more successful we will actually be and anticipate. If it's a weight loss goal, suddenly your family may have to be eating differently, or you may be saying to them, you know what, I know Friday night is pizza night, but you have one or two choices. They can continue to have pizza or you have something else, or they may have to start eating something different. So again, thinking about these potential obstacles and triggers that can derail you and incorporating them into your plan will make them much more successful. Does it inspire you? Again, somewhat it goes around that commitment part. Are you inspired to achieve this? Again, all of this goes to motivation and helps you to stay on course to achieve those goals versus giving up down the road. Any questions about that? Or any comments? All right. So once you've got that, as Sheila mentioned, okay, now you're going to really create your specific, your SMART goals. What specifically are you going to do? And from there, you're going to create an action plan. So now that I'm really clear about what it is that I want to achieve, I tend to like to look at, especially if it's a business and a long term. So in Patricia's example, what is my, what am I going to be my targets for the year of what I'm planning on doing? I like to start at the end. Okay, working backwards. I'm at the top of the mountain. I've hit this target. How did I do that? What was the implements and elements of that created that win? And then you start to go backwards. You evaluate the activities that you're going to need. What do I need to do? For example, in Patricia's example, she talked about, well, there's going to be some ongoing activities. I'm going to have to see a certain number of prospects. I know that I close on 10% of them or 20% of them. So if I need a total of 10 customers and I close, 12 customers and I close 10% of them, then over the course of that year, I need to see 120, right? So there's going to be information that you will need to add into that to make sure that you're on track and achieving. There will be many timelines for specific activities as you go through in order for you to help to achieve. And again, if this is a situation where you're in a business and you have other people as part of that, so if they're going to launch a sales training program, then when are they going to launch that? Well, there'll probably be some promotional activities that need to happen. There'll need to be someone who actually writes and creates those. So you need to look at those and place them on some sort of Excel tracker or calendar or project map so that you can see how they all interact. And there may be some negotiation because your priority for a particular activity may be different than someone else's. So again, it's a little bit of a negotiation, but you put it all up on a piece of paper, on a project map, so that you can see that. And again, it gives you milestones and activities to work towards to achieve the ultimate goal. Part and parcel is, what resources do you need? Are there funding activities? Are you going to have to go get a loan? Will someone be, providing you with authorization for tuition? Will you be joining an accountability group like Patricia had mentioned? What types of resources? Those may be financial, they may be support, they may be any number of things. And then once you have all that together, you've ultimately created your action plan. So you know where you're going to end up. You've decided what activities you need to do and by when. You've secured the resources, and now you're going to execute on that plan. Any questions about that? How does that feel? Hopefully it's not, recognize that some goals are much smaller and some are obviously much bigger. So you will adjust according to that. Some of these examples that I just gave you are some, fairly large organized people. If it was to lose weight, for example, or perhaps I've heard some people say that my goal is to read a book a week. All right. So obviously from a win perspective, you can keep a chart of, I read this book this week. From a milestone perspective, part of that is deciding how much reading you would do and by when. So it might be that I'm going to get up at 5:30 and I'm going to read for half an hour per day. That will secure my action plan along the way. Any questions? Does it seem to resonate with you? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So remember I said the benefits, we talked at the beginning, the benefits of goal setting, many of which is resiliency, accomplishment, happiness, positivity, action, prioritization. All of this really allows you to liberate your thoughts and actions and your energy and inspires you with hope. And that will be very important. It is any year, but particularly when we're still dealing with COVID and unknown. Instead of being like that example where we showed the life vest or life circle, whatever we call that, bobbing around in the ocean, you will feel like you're much more anchored. You will feel like you're on a boat and at least controlling the direction of the way that you're moving it through those waters. Any questions? Okay.
I have, well, I guess it's a question. Do you have any templates when you talk about the action plan? And you mentioned about Excel, which I have to admit, I use Excel all the time for these sorts of things. Do you have any templates, or can you point us to any templates that could be useful?
Absolutely. And you'll see on the next chart, I've created,
Sorry, keep going
no,
ahead.
no, that's fine. You won't, I have created a simple little 3-page PDF goal setting roadmap worksheet that really talks about, the things that we went through today. And on there is a snippet picture of an Excel format that I use with a lot of my clients. And it just basically breaks it down. Here's your 3 goals. What are the milestones that you need to do? Who's responsible for it? Because again, if it's in a company, there will be certain tasks that are delegated to other people. And then literally it's just simple Excel document that has the dates. So who's responsible by when? And I find that it's particularly when you're looking at it from, overlaying the 3 goals together, it really gets very clear about there may be some negotiation on some organization and priorities. Wow, this needs to happen before this. So that means I got to move this out. But once you see it all sort of in a snapshot, it really helps you to make much better decisions and keeps you accountable to those timelines. So feel free to reach out to me. There's my email address, shawna@quigleycoaching.com, and I will send that PDF to you. And if once you review that, or you just would like to have a quick chat about our conversation and some goals that you're setting up, again, reach out to me by email. I'm happy to do that. And also to let you know that I will be conducting a few more webinars. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you found that it was informative. And perhaps my biggest hope is that there was some information in there that maybe will compel you to building goals that are really going to motivate you going forward, and that you will achieve much more success, not just in 2021, but going on. If you enjoyed this, I am doing 3 other webinars at Resource YYC. Those are the dates. All of them are at 11 a.m. for 1 hour. So the first one is around building high-performing relationships with social styles. And this is really about understanding your behavior and the behaviors of others, and how together you can really work to create much more productive relationships, primarily from a business perspective, but quite frankly, the information also works on a personal basis. March 2nd is and March 23rd are more sales oriented, and they're talking about setting the right mindset for selling success. And March 23rd is the 5 most common mistakes made in customer meetings and how to avoid them. Was there any questions or comments?
Oh, we've got a thank you from Kat. She says this session helped her fill out the beginnings of a book.
Wow, terrific. I'm so excited. Congratulations for that.
bestself.co.
Love
It's
it.
about goal setting and more. So yeah, that sounds very interesting. Thank you,
Love
Kat.
it. Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, Shawna. That was very informative. We've got lots of thanks in the comment as well. And we will be posting this online for everyone. And if you're interested in more sessions, please check out resourceyyc.org. And I've posted some of our social media in the chat if you're interested in connecting with us. And so I hope everyone has a great day and can come up with some great goals for this new year.
And thank you so much, Rosemary, for facilitating that. And just as a final note, feel free to connect with me, www.quigleycoaching.com, or my email, and also on LinkedIn and Facebook. So good luck. I'm sure that you'll be setting some goals that really inspire you, and that 2021 will be the year that you're dreaming of, clear with focus and alignment to your goals.
Thanks, Shawna. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a
Bye,
good one,
Sheila.
everyone.